Hello, my name is Brad Spence, and today we'll be talking about the First Sino-Japanese War. Alright, let's begin. Since the First Opium War in 1839 to 1842, China, a once powerful nation in Asia, was now weak and was forced to accept unequal treaties with Britain, France, Russia, and the United States. China did try to modernize several times, in fact, but were crushed by the conservatives in the imperial court. With no reforms from the central government, local regional governors raised modernized armies to deal with external and internal threats. As an example, the Beiyang fleet, which was China's only modern fleet, mainly because they avoided battles in the Tonkin War from 1884 to 1885, making it China's only chance of defeating an enemy fleet. Now we know what China was doing during this time. Let's talk about how the war started. Korea, which was ruled by the Joseon dynasty, which was an isolationist protectorate of China. Despite America trying to open up the country in 1871, it took a modernized Japan to get the country to open up with the Treaty of Ganghwae in 1876. This led to the Korean monarchy, seeing how well modernization worked for Japan, decided to modernize themselves, with the Korean government signing treaties with US, UK, Germany, Italy, Russia, and France to help them modernize. But on the 23rd of July 1882, during a severe drought which bankrupted the country and unrest among the Yanban, Korea's noble class, due to the reforms that weakened their power, the army mutinied and, along with angry and hungry peasants, overthrown the reformist government in Seoul, and the Queen fled the city. During the Imo incident, the Japanese legation was attacked and killed the leader of the Japanese mission along with others. The Chinese were convinced that the Japanese would send troops to Korea. China sent 4,500 troops into Korea to crush the rebellion, and when the Japanese did send a battalion and 4 warships to Seoul, they found out that the Chinese had already restored order in the city. This incident was a massive setback for the Korean modernization efforts, with China turning Korea into a vassal state, but Japan was allowed to station a small guard to protect the Japanese legation in Seoul. Over the years, 2 factions began to form in the Korean court: the pro-Chinese conservatives and the pro-Japanese modernizers. On December 1884, seizing the opportunity that China was busy with the Tonkin War, a war between France and China over Vietnam, the modernizers, with help from the Japanese ambassador, launched a coup against the government. But the Chinese garrison under the command of Yuan Shikai crushed the coup, with the surviving modernizers fleeing to Japan, and the Japanese legation was burnt down, with some 40 Japanese being killed. The following month, the Japanese responded to what happened during the Gapsun coup by sending several warships and 2 battalions to Korea. Since China was not fit to fight a full-scale war with Japan, since they were still losing the Tonkin War, the Qing dynasty decided to negotiate with the Japanese government. A Japanese military presence would be restored in Seoul. Both China and Japan agreed to withdraw their forces from Korea, but General Yang Shikai would remain in Seoul as the Chinese ambassador in the Korean court. Tensions rose between China and Japan when on the 13th of August 1886, when 4 warships from the Beiyang fleet docked at Nagasaki harbor for repairs, but the Chinese sailors went to Nagasaki's red light district where they got drunk and started causing trouble, and when the Japanese police tried to restore order, but a fight broke out with both sides fighting with swords, with 1 officer and 3 sailors killed and 53 injured on the Chinese side, and 2 constables killed and 19 injured on the Japanese side, with 80 civilians being killed. The Beiyang fleet quickly left Japanese waters, and the Chinese government did not apologize for the incident. This angered the Japanese, but one good thing came out of the incident. A Japanese man found the codebook for the Beiyang fleet, which gave Japan an advantage during the upcoming war. But on the 28th of March 1894, an important member of the Korean modernizer faction, Kim Hon-yeon, was assassinated in Shanghai, which caused outrage in Tokyo. And 2 months later, on the 1st of June, a revolt broke out in Korea due to overtaxation and the incompetence of the Chinese-backed government. On the 3rd of June, King Go-jeon, under the advice of Yuan Shikai, asked for Chinese troops to crush the rebels, and the Chinese sent 2,900 troops to crush the rebels before the Japanese could interfere. But by mid-June, the Japanese had already sent several warships to Chenpo and Pusan, and 420 Marines who were sent to Seoul to protect the Japanese legation, and later Japan would send 8,000 troops to Chenpo. The Japanese government offered the Chinese government to join forces so they can crush the rebels, but China refused, and King Gojong demanded the immediate withdrawal of Japanese troops from Korea. While China was slow to react, the Japanese quickly crushed the Donghak Rebellion and captured most of southern Korea by the 25th of June. China was surprised by the rapidness of the Japanese and had no interest in fighting the Japanese now that they had captured southern Korea, but the Japanese were more willing to fight China and kick them out of Korea once and for all. Despite attempts by the British to mediate the two sides, Japan was not interested, and the Japanese ambassador presented King Gojong a plan for reform which would turn his kingdom into a vassal state. The king understandably rejected it, and the Japanese occupied Seoul on the 23rd of July and captured King Gojong and set up a pro-Japanese government which ordered all Chinese troops to leave Korea, which they were already doing before the order was issued. The Chinese government saw the new Korean government as illegitimate, and on the 25th of July, China sent a protector cruiser, 2 gunboats, and a transport ship to reinforce their position at Ansan Bay, but were intercepted by 3 Japanese cruisers and sunk the gunboat and transport and captured the other gunboat and damaged the cruiser. With the Chinese in Ansan Bay now isolated, the Japanese defeated the entrenched Chinese at the Battle of Shinawan, taking Ansan and forcing the surviving Chinese to retreat to Pyongyang. The Chinese forces under General Yi Shichao had 15,000 men to defend Pyongyang, but the Chinese did enjoy a good defensive position around Pyongyang. The 23,800 men of the Japanese army under the command of Yamagawa Atomo marched to Pyongyang, and in the early morning of the 15th of September, the Japanese attacked the Chinese defensive line but were repulsed. But later in the day, heavy rain turned the Chinese earthworks into a sea of mud, and under the cover of darkness, the Japanese captured the Chinese fortress of Motantai on the hills north of Pyongyang, thus gaining a dominant position for the Japanese artillery. And when the Chinese found out their precarious position, the Chinese retreated or surrendered to the Japanese. The Beiyang fleet was in a defensive deployment on the mouth of the Yao River, where Chinese transports were sending 4,500 troops to help the Chinese army defending Manchuria, but on the 17th of September, the Japanese fleet attacked the Beiyang fleet, and the admiral of the Beiyang fleet, Tang Zhou-chang, tried to form a single line of battle across the mouth of the Yuan, but failed to communicate this, resulting in the Beiyang fleet forming a wedge formation. The Japanese columns attacked the Chinese right wing and, with their fast speed and high rate of fire, cut through the Chinese lines at point-blank range. The Japanese then attacked the Chinese left flank and encircled the Beiyang fleet and gave them a damn good thrashing. The Chinese lost 4 cruisers and another scuttled, with the Japanese having 6 of their ships damaged. On the 24th of October, the Japanese opened a second front at Putsiu on the Liaodong Peninsula and marched to take Port Arthur. On the Chinese-Korean border, the Chinese had 23,000 men to defend the border, but the Japanese army in Korea launched a night attack against the Chinese defensive line, and they broke through the Chinese lines, and the Chinese retreated to Yaoyang, with the Japanese hot on their heels. In the Liaodong Peninsula, the Japanese Second Army met the resistance from the Chinese, and the Japanese captured the outlying positions around Port Arthur. With Port Arthur under threat, the Chinese government ordered the Beiyang fleet to retreat to Wei to prevent the fleet falling into Japanese hands, but the Chinese battleship Shenyang ran aground outside Wei port and was used as a stationary artillery battery for the rest of the war. On the 21st of November, the Japanese stormed the city of Port Arthur, and after a token resistance, they took the city, but the Japanese were angered when they saw the mutilated remains of their foreign comrades, due to the fact that the Chinese government put a bounty of 50 talents on POWs, or the heads or body parts of Japanese soldiers. The Japanese massacred between 2,600 to 20,000 Chinese civilians and soldiers. the Japanese was still determined to destroy the remnants of the Beiyang fleet, so they sent 3 cruisers to destroy the Chinese, while the Second Army landed at Wangchang on the 18th January 1895. The Japanese launched a 3-pronged attack, and despite being hampered by the severe winter and blizzard conditions, the Japanese captured Wei Hangwei on the 20th of February. Meanwhile, back in Manchuria, the Chinese forces had 40,000 men defending Yingkao, but on the 28th of February, the Japanese with 55,800 men attacked the cities of Yingkao and Laoyang and captured them on March 9th. It was becoming clear that the Chinese couldn't win this war. The Qing government asked for peace, and on the 17th of April, the Chinese signed the Treaty of Shimonoseki, where China lost suzerainty over Korea and ceded Taiwan, the Penghu Islands, and the Liaodong Peninsula to Japan. But Russia, Germany, and France didn't like Japan having the Liaodong Peninsula, and the 3 powers pressured Japan to give the Liaodong Peninsula back to China. In Taiwan, when its governor named Tang Jingsong found out that the island was being ceded to Japan, he decided to proclaim the Republic of Formosa. But that's a story for my next video. If you like this video, like and subscribe. See you next time.